Oh, I don't know if anybody's out there waiting or not, but good morning, anybody that's out there. Oh, I'm not going to be on here too long today. Uh, One thing, I'm kind of tired. It's been a long night. Well, good morning, Noreen. Glad to see you on here. It looks like you're the first one, so I don't know how long it'll take to get a few in here. Hope today's going okay for you. Speedy, good morning. Glad to see you here. We're not too far from noon here in the central United States. Tammy, glad to see you. Lucinda, yeah. Oh, didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night, so I am going to try to keep this as short as I can. Grumpy, how you doing? Oh, Cindy, good morning, Cindy. I hope things are working out for you. Yeah, Lisa and Tori do have a lot of wrapping to get done. I don't know if Topher's maybe helping them too. Okay, glad to see you this morning. Fly in the Sky, good morning. Caddy, good morning. Linda Life, good morning. You've been waiting for me, huh? Okay. Paulette, good morning. Cindy says she's in a cheap motel for a few days. Have you been able to get with that where the people that you put in for a apartment on your to move into, or I don't know if it's an apartment or a house? G Sky, okay, change your name. All right, now I know. Thank you for letting me know. Part of what I wanted to talk about today, and the reason it's going to be a short video. What was I thinking? Good morning. It was kind of a tough day for me. I was kind of blue. I couldn't get my wife out of my mind yesterday. It happened to be one of those days, and I don't know why it hit me so hard, but it did. And part of it was because some of the stuff I'd read about end of life things and, the signs you look for. And my wife was starting to display them about a month before she actually passed away. And I didn't pick up on it, nor did I research it. And I guess it's kind of shame on me. I'm one of those people that I think just because I plan something, that it's going to happen. Join the Joiners, good morning. And I'm kind of bullheaded, so it's hard for me to change my mind on anything, obviously. All my life, I planned a little bit ahead, and my wife was of the same mind. And so we figured if we planned it, that's the way it was going to be. And for most of our life, that's the way it was. Especially this last half of our married life, it's been planned it and carried out. And her and I both have been through life-changing and life-threatening things that happens in real life. You can't always stop them from hitting you in the head or facing it head on. Robert, good morning. So every time my wife has been in the hospital where it was life-threatening, we've made it through to the other side fairly quickly. And life changes that had to be done, we took care of it. We did it. The doctor wanted us to do something different, or medications, whatever it was. Life meant that much to us. And early on, my health was in bad shape when I was in my middle 50s. And our planning was to make sure that my wife would have a good life financially when I was gone. We had pushed way ahead in our thinking, way into the collecting Social Security and stuff, and the amounts that would be there and what it took to do those things. And we started making sure we were liquid from day one. Good morning, Pebs. So even though there might be an obstacle in front of us, we never thought that that obstacle would stop us in our tracks. And probably that was not a good way to look at everything, I guess. It's a good way to get things done, but it isn't necessarily your life. You have to be ready for some disappointments. And when my wife passed away, that was a big disappointment, the worst I ever faced in my life. And I went over it and over it. And I think that's probably normal, because to get to that next step, you wonder what you could have done or what could have been done, or why you didn't see the future, because we've always been good about guessing the future. And we did okay. She was in the hospital for 2 months in 3 different hospitals, and she had been into imminent danger over half a dozen times where they didn't know whether she was going to make it or not. And we were getting used to the fact of going way down and bringing her back. And when I say way down, I mean she was within a half hour of not making it. It took a lot of work to keep her up, a lot of blood, and all kinds of medication. And we almost lost her before she was able to get on the helicopter, be flown to where they could get enough blood to keep her alive, and they had a team there waiting for her. And it scared the heck out of me. But I always figured, no problem. My wife's a fighter. She wants to stick around. We'll get through it somehow. And when my daughter and I got to that next hospital, she was stable, and they give her what was necessary to keep her alive. The difference being, there was a lot of machines there, and she was hooked up to a lot of liquids. They have these, what they call trees, on both sides of the bed, and there was machines behind that yet that were hooked to her. And she had a port, on the side here from the last hospital where they would hook those extra lines in. And then it comes down, and there's all kinds of these things sticking through that, they plug in, and some of them they shoot shots in. And they were giving her shots every so often, things, I guess, it picks them up quicker. I have no idea. And then the line coming down from there was at least 5 bags on this one tree, and sometimes more. But sometimes they would go into one of those bags and they would hit it with another needle. Anyway, as she got a little better, they took her and put her in regular care. And she was there just a few days and right back into critical care again. Only that time it was a lot more serious than I had realized. I didn't know it was the beginning of the end. And I fought like hell for different tests to be taken and getting them to commit, because one of the surgeries that was needed was where they have to open up her abdomen. And they literally have to close off some veins to stop her from, when she would bleed, she would pump like this. It was open. And if they didn't get it very quickly, she would have never made it. And luckily, so far they'd caught it in time each time. It was 7 times she went through that, by the way. Well, I didn't realize it, but all the organs are affected every time you have a loss of blood like that, and the oxygen goes way down, your veins start collapsing. And, you're there watching it, and pretty soon it's like a occurrence. It would happen every 3 to 4 days that she was having this episodes. And she's a fighter, and she wanted to live. And so she fought with everything she had. I didn't realize that the equipment is what kept her going. She wasn't getting hardly any nourishment whatsoever. Just this liquid to keep the heart running, make sure she could breathe, make her kidneys work, all those kind of things. But it only lasts so long. And I needed to look at it to see what the consequence is of all this stuff up there. But it takes the place of your body functions. And I was always pushing the surgeons, whatever tests were needed. And I didn't care what it takes. My interest is 100% keeping my wife up and going, and we were going to take her home, get her out of there. And, halfway through this whole scenario, they had threatened me different times at one of the hospitals that she wasn't doing the therapy she was supposed to. And by the way, she couldn't. One leg did not work. And one day they gave me a 48-hour notice, and I exploded. And I got on the internet. I bought all the equipment I needed here. I contacted the outfit that would come in with nurses, and they come into my house, check to make sure that it was adequate so that I could move my wife into the house, and that I would have outside help. And I have a neighbor up here that is a registered care taker, and it was qualified to write programs. And I had an outfit out of Southern Iowa that was more than willing to have people up here, and I got to meet them. Your therapy and nurse and evaluator. A person comes in, evaluates your home and your ability to take care of things. And the one neighbor had committed and said, whatever it takes, I'm here 24 hours. Anytime you need me, I will be there. So we knew we had carried everything to that point. And everything, I really thought everything was taken care of. I thought there's no hole in this program, right? And then the day come where she couldn't get enough oxygen. And I called the doctor up and said, I wanted to be able to have this oxygen in the home. And they said, get her to the hospital. That's going to have to be decided by a doctor. And she was in bad enough shape to take her to the town that our physician was in wasn't going to be good. And she said, no, you can take her to the hospital now. And I did. And they took her in, and at the time she was apparently bleeding, and the oxygen was way too low. And they pushed everything in. When I took her to that last one where they air flighted her in, that team took her and stabilized her and got her going. So we get down to the last few days. Now, I'm not a medical person whatsoever. And all this time, I had worked hard, and so did my wife and my daughter, of trying to get this program working right. And she had a team. She knew everybody's name and joked with them and all that stuff. It was more like a family working together. And in the last 24 hours, my daughter and I came there, and my wife said, I want to go home. She's hooked all this equipment. She wouldn't have lasted a half hour if we'd have disconnected it, and if I'd have took her home right that minute. I would not got her home. So I told her, I said, I'm going to talk to everybody. And she said, well, the physicians had been there at 4 a.m. and told her that there's nothing more they could do for her and that they were not going to operate on her. Steam literally was coming out of me. And I'm not one that ever backed up from responsibility of any kind. And I was super hot. So I got on right away. I said, I want to meet with the surgeons. I want to know what's going on. Or they were committed to surgery that day with other patients. There's no way they can step away from that. And, they were there early in the morning. They were going to be there late at night doing the same thing. This was a long day for them, surgery day. There's 2 of them that work together. One of them is the top one in the hospital, is my understanding. And he was in charge of my wife's care, the whole thing. So before the day was over, they asked me if I wanted to talk to a palliative nurse. And I didn't really know what all that entailed anyway. And I didn't know how is she going to fix it. I need that surgery done on my wife for her to live. That's in my mind. That's what I felt like. And I wasn't going to sell for less. And anyway, I agreed to talk to this nurse. And she said, well, what can I do for you? Because I didn't want to talk about palliative care. I wanted to talk about this operation that the surgeon said no. I said, I want to know what's going on. I want to talk to him. And she explained why I couldn't talk to him that day. I said, okay, let's set up an appointment for tomorrow. But I said, I want to talk to the administration of the hospital at the same time. Now, all my life, I've been used to getting my way, shoving my way, one way or the other, doing whatever it takes to get something done. And I was not going to let my wife take a second chair to anything, period. I would not do it. My wife, apparently, from the talk she'd had with the surgeon, was already probably told that nothing is going to go. She had told me, they said that they couldn't help her anymore. And apparently, they were looking at her not making it. She was going to die. I didn't know that. And I wasn't looking at anything like that. All I was looking at is this next step so I can get her past that and get her home. That was what central in my mind. I didn't look at the whole picture, just look at that. And it's hard to look back because you're looking, what could be done different? Can we change what's going on? But her body was so weak, and I didn't know that it was that weak. And they did have meetings over her, the people in the critical care unit, the surgeons, everybody that touched her. And while she was there was somebody watching her all the time and sitting 15 feet away on a monitor looking at her around the clock, 24 hours a day. She had a heart attack in there. They were in there in seconds. That nurse that was monitoring that was out around that monitor and in there. Well, before she died, in her last 5 or 6 hours, they turned the things off up above that have the warnings on it. But I could hear them out there every time one would go off, and they were going off regularly. And they run back into there and adjust things. The machines was keeping her up. At the time, I didn't put it together. And then finally, they put a couple on right there. And there was somebody there just boom, boom, boom all the time. One of the surgeons come in, and then, of course, I raked him pretty good. The night, the day that they told her that it was apparently the end, and my wife must have told him not to tell me. I don't know. But I went home to get cleaned up, get a night's sleep, and be there early in the morning. I said, I'll be here very early in the morning because I want to talk to those surgeons. I'm not going to let them get past me. They called me up at 9 o'clock at night, and they said, your wife wanted us to call you. She had some Jell-O and something to drink. And she wanted us to tell you that she feels good and that she's happy. In 2 months of care in the hospital, they had never called me in the night like that to tell me my wife was very happy and was happy to have a meal. No, she hadn't eaten anything for over a week or any liquids or anything. It was all given to her artificially. And at the time, I was happy. I thought, oh, wow, she's got a good evening. And she was probably trying to make it so I could get a night's sleep or something. I have no idea. About 5 hours later or 6 hours later, I got a call, said that she was in distress and that they'd give her a shot to ease the anxiety. So my daughter and I, we jumped in the car. I don't think it took 10 minutes for us to get in the car and start out. And it's about an hour and a half drive. We got there and walked back there. My wife was sitting up in the bed and her eyes were fixed straight ahead. And if that don't scare you. And the people had a different look on their face. It was kind of quiet around there, other than equipment that's running in there and the alarms going off. And they said, you can go on in, And I went on in there and they were making adjustments and doing all kinds of stuff. And my wife was able to talk. And her eyes were pretty much straight ahead. And she said she could see us okay. She was communicative, at least at that point. And there was a different attitude in there at that time. A lot quieter in the talk, no joking, none of that. It was all serious. And I was worried because of the look on my wife. And I knew there was a big change, that And I thought, well, she got real worried. That's why they give her the shot for anxiety. I didn't realize that towards the end of life, sometimes they give you a shot that kind of dulls everything. It also can speed up things as well as you relax. And in that last couple of days, her kidneys had pretty well shut down. And they can give you shots that force liquids out, right? And they'd been doing that for off and on for a week at that point. And they had a catheter in her, but she just wasn't getting enough from the catheter to get back in that bag. And everything swelled up from all these liquids back here on these trees on either side of her bed. She was leaking like a sieve out through here, on her legs, her feet down where her ankles are. And, that last day I'd walked in and she was wet, sopping wet. And they hadn't been that long since they cleaned her up. And so, and of course, that don't dawn on me that, her organs aren't working. And so there's no place for the liquid to go. It has to come out. And it comes out in a lot of places. I'd never run across that before. And I was too bullheaded to talk to the palliative nurse. I didn't know that we were at the end of the road for her to live. Right up till about the last half hour, I was in the mind that I was going to be able to take my wife home. Reason being, I wasn't used to being told no. I had always been able to circumvent problems. And my wife was such a fighter. I couldn't imagine her not being here. After all, we talked right up to about that last half hour, 45 minutes, or hour, or something like that. Time didn't even register. But the people were quiet, and I didn't, at the time, I didn't understand. And they were sad before anything happened. And then she had tears. She was close. When I finally figured out everything that was going on and I didn't pick up, it was yesterday. If I'd done just a little more studying, I would have understood. I think my wife didn't want us to know what was going on because she didn't want us to be sad too long. She wanted us to have one last night to prepare. She went pretty quick that morning. The result, it all came to realization yesterday, late in the day. Now, if you guys face something like that, to prepare yourself for it, read up on it, talk to the physicians, the palliative care people, so that you can prepare yourself emotionally for that end. It's been 3 months. It finally hit me. It's killing me. Somehow, I think my wife suffered longer just to try to please maybe us out here to make us feel better. I don't know. All I know is it was over, and I didn't realize it till yesterday. I'm gonna get off. I can't talk. if I get to feeling better later, it won't be for a while. I feel awful. For today, that's it.